Hi, welcome back to Riding the Wave of Good Fortune. I'm Paula, and today we're going to talk some more celebrity gossip. And this is around hashtag Free Britney. The Britney Spears conservatorship has just really gotten a lot of our attention. And while there's a lot being said about the travesty that is occurring, and I don't disagree, but I'd really like to focus on some really great things that are happening here. First and foremost, how Britney Spears spoke up in court, all right? That she stood up and that she said, I deserve to be free. This isn't working. I'm not gonna be quiet about this. And that she did so powerfully. And that is no small thing. And I think it's important that those of us who are very wrapped up and curious and interested in this, just take a minute to just soak it in. The courage that it took for her to do that. Consider the fear that must have been in place for a 26-year-old, 13 years ago, new mom, afraid of losing her kids and access to her kids. The fear that was in place that had her give away her freedom, allow people to take that, to face that fear and to stand up, the courage that it took to do what she did. Way to go, Britney. That is freedom. She's already started to free Britney. So that's beautiful. I loved seeing it. The second thing, believe it or not, I think our Constitution is working. We are a relatively young country, and we may not have gotten everything right when we started. If you wait till it's all right, it'll never get done, right? We started somewhere, but we put checks and balances in place that allow us to review these laws and improve them. And I think we've all really become aware that this concept of conservatorship can be taken advantage of. I don't know if you've seen the movie I Care a Lot. But it actually spoke to this, how the law allows people to victimize people, and not necessarily weak people. Britney Spears is by no means weak, but vulnerable, people who are vulnerable to these loopholes in the law. And the fact that Congress is even looking at it, that the judge heard it, and that we're all talking about it, tells me that our system is working. So that's two really great positive things that are happening around the Free Britney movement. Now, you know me, I don't want to just sit here, eat some popcorn, and watch what's happening in someone else's life. I want to see what this means about me as a human. So let's look at two things we can learn as human beings around this situation. The first thing, as a human being, how on earth does someone get themselves in this position? Right? Nothing against Britney, but if it can happen to her, what is it that has people in that vulnerable space? And it's one word, and that word is trust. Here's the rub. You cannot play a game as big as the game that Britney Spears is playing, or that any of us wants to play, this global scale, a big game, without having support, without having people around you that you trust. The key is being mindful and intentional about who's around you and who you trust. Now, I will say I was not conscious or aware enough to make those decisions when I was 26. But I'm better now, right? I know what my non-negotiables are, and I'm going to look around and I'm going to see who's in my life. I'm not going to just assume because they're in my family, they have my best interest at heart. That isn't always the case. I'm not going to assume that because they were my friends before I was at this level of success, they get to continue being my friends, right? I want to look at what are their values? What are my values? What are my non-negotiables, and where do they stand on that? Get aware of who's in your life, who you can trust. Because when the time comes to share that trust, you want to know that the people around you are intentional, that you're aware of who they are and what they stand for, and what you can truly count on them for. okay? So that's first, that whole trust thing. The second thing is, who or what are you giving your freedom to? Every one of us is imprisoned in some way. By no means to the extent that she's been experiencing. But let's look at this from, what is the box that I live in? What has me handcuffed? What are my limitations? And at the end of the day, a lot of it is just about the agreements you've made. Are you even aware of the agreements that you're living under? Yes, there are financial agreements, maybe debt that you've got there, or a job that you've agreed to. But there are other things that you may not even be aware that you agreed to, but you operate them as if you are honoring this agreement. Like, you're a woman, and that means you can't do this. Or you're not old enough to do this, or you are too old to do this. Have you really agreed to that? Look at the barriers around the box that you live in, because it's made up of agreements that someone else may have made for you. So find out what agreements you're living under. I can't go back to school. I can't be an artist without being educated. None of this is true. But have you agreed to it? So learn from Britney. Take this opportunity to free you and look at what agreements you can renegotiate. As a human being, you can renegotiate anytime. You have that right. So yeah, that's our 2 lessons for today. Number 1, know who you can trust. And number 2, be aware of what agreements you've entered into, what agreements you are living under, and at any given time, when it serves you, take the opportunity to renegotiate.